In her first sit-down interview since taking over as the interim state school superintendent, Dr. Carey Wright speaks candidly about the future of Maryland schools.
Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains Dr. Wright shares what she's learned on her first 6 months on the job, what she believes needs to change, and how she plans to do it.
This is your first sit-down interview since you became interim superintendent?
That is correct.
How's it going?
Great. It's great. It's a lot of work to be done.
After nearly 6 months as Maryland's interim superintendent of schools, Dr. Carey Wright knows she has a lot to do, and the expectations are very high.
It's all focused on how do we improve outcomes for children and how do we support teachers and leaders in that process.
And we also are going to make this special.
Maryland is adding billions of additional dollars to public education, and it's her job to make sure taxpayers get a return on that investment. But it's something that she has done before with a lot less money and much farther to climb. Before coming to Maryland, Dr. Wright served as the state superintendent in Mississippi, a school system that was ranked one of the lowest performing in the country when she took over.
In fact, the old saying in the South used to be, thank God for Mississippi, because the other states in the area knew that when the test results came out, they didn't have to worry about being at the bottom because we always were.
But in 2013, Mississippi overhauled its education system, focusing primarily on improving early childhood literacy and training teachers how to teach reading.
We hired literacy coaches and put them in our lowest performing schools. We tracked and monitored progress 3 times a year to make sure we were on track. We provided additional help to those schools that needed it the most.
The plan paid off. Quality Counts is Education Week's annual report card, which grades states based on their performance in K through 12 education. Under Dr. Wright's leadership, Mississippi's grade improved from an F to a C, boosting its ranking from 50th to 35th in the country. According to federal testing known as NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, Mississippi now outperforms Maryland in many key metrics, which raises the question, could the same solutions work here?
I don't know that I would say that what we're doing wrong as much as what we may need to change, and I think that to me is reading instruction.
According to Dr. Wright, Maryland, just like Mississippi, must focus on getting children to read by 3rd grade. And it begins not with students, but with teachers, training them in the science of reading.
To me, there is a very methodical way that you go about teaching children to read.
Professional development for teachers is a big part of the blueprint for Maryland's future, which pumps billions of additional tax dollars into public education. But funding the blueprint is crushing local budgets. Several counties say they can't afford to fund it, and they're calling on lawmakers to delay implementing it.
I think that we need to continue to fully implement the blueprint.
Dr. Wright says delaying the blueprint is not the answer. Schools need to restructure.
So you're not going to get extra funds to keep doing what you've already been doing. You have to look at your funds and say, and your staff and your teachers, and say, where are these children, and then how does that money end up where those children are?
But does more money make the difference? The most recent census data from 2022 says Mississippi spends just over $10,000 per student, while Maryland spends more than $16,000 per student. When Dr. Wright overhauled education in Mississippi, she had a lot less money to work with. But there's also something else she didn't have. The Mississippi Association of Educators, similar to a teachers union, does not have collective bargaining rights, making it much less powerful than Maryland's teachers unions. According to the most recent federal filings, the Mississippi Association reported $2.1 million in revenue in 2021. Maryland's teachers union collected nearly $26.5 million.
One of the main concerns we hear from school administrators is that it is very difficult to fire, get rid of a bad teacher because of the union influence.
I think you've got to go through the steps of trying to help someone. The same thing would be true for a principal that may not be as strong as that principal needs to be. And I think everybody deserves that first. I think everybody deserves the opportunity to see, can we build your skill sets?
Once teachers have been given the training and resources they need, if the results still are not there, Dr. Wright says there are options, such as career counseling, to put teachers in other positions outside of the classroom.
A teacher has more than a job. You've got a mission as a teacher. These are children's lives that depend on what you're doing with them each and every day. But the bottom line for me is we should not have anybody in any kind of leadership position, leading in a classroom, leading in a building, leading in a district, that's not putting students first.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
And Dr. Wright took over in October as the interim superintendent, replacing Mohammed Chowdhury. She tells Project Baltimore she has applied for the full-time position. The Maryland State Board of Education is conducting a national search for candidates and is expected to announce their choice in late April.
I'm Chris Pabst. Thanks for watching. Here's another story to watch. Also, if you have a story idea, please send us a message.